is Noelle. I'm the community director here at Free. And this is Carrie. She is our associate executive director. And here at Free, we are breaking the silence of addiction while creating space for healing, recovery, and spiritual connection. But there is one thing that we don't do here at Free. And on the count of 3, I want you all to shout it out for me. And if you don't know it, you're about to find out really soon. So 1, 2, 3. We don't do shame. That's right, we don't do shame. But there are some other things that we do here, Carrie.
We're doing a lot of things in the month of December, so bear with me with this long announcement. I will try to make it brief. I will also encourage you guys to download the app because all of this will be in there. But I'm going to first start off. If this is your first time, welcome. We are very glad that you're here with us tonight. Would love to get to know you better. So just outside of these doors, we have welcome bags. Inside the welcome bags, we have some fresh roasted wagon coffee, as well as some free swag and our Connect card to get connected, get on our mailing list, and stay informed about all of the events that we have coming up, especially in the month of December, because there's a lot. So I'm going to go over them briefly, but again, for more details, go on our website, go on our socials, and you'll find more information. The first thing we have coming up is this coming Monday. Ryan, our pastor and executive director, and I will be hosting on Monday night Advent, which Advent is, in essence, just the countdown to Christmas. So it's a reflective evening, a quieter evening, a potluck, a way to kind of slow down, spend some spiritual connection time with community, get to know each other a little bit better, and kind of take that pause before the chaos of the holiday ensues. Yeah. Next we have coming up is the Sip and Shop this next Saturday, so a week from today. This is going to be in a cafe from 4 until 8. It's going to be local vendors. We do still have a few more spots, so if you would like to be a vendor, you're not too late. You can contact me. My email is on the flyer. Not this one, but it is on the one that's on the website. Contact me and we can get you set up. Next, after that, we have our Ha Ha Holidays, which is on December 12th. It's a Thursday night. It's a free event that we're partnering with the Phoenix. It is an absolutely hilarious event. It's professional comedians who are in recovery, who their set is all based in recovery.
Were any of you at Ha Ha Holidays last year? It was a packed house.
Packed.
It was so fun.
So come early, because if you don't get a seat in the main room here, overflow will be in the cafe, but it will not be live streamed. So you have to be here in order to hear it. But there will be seats in the cafe as well. This is an 18 and over event. We do not provide babysitting this evening, and it is definitely, you know how comedians can kind of get, it is not child friendly. So do not bring littles. They will not be allowed to come in.
Ryan got roasted last year.
He got,
it was great.
It was pretty bad apparently.
It
so I'm hoping a little bit gets about this year. We'll see.
I've never seen him turn the shade of a tomato, but it happened last year, so it's good.
So definitely get here early, save your seats. You do have to register for this event, although it's free, so you can either go through our website or on the Phoenix app and get yourself a reserved spot. Next, we have, this is another super fun event. This is going to be our party in the parking lot just behind our building, those parking spaces. We're blocking off the street back there. We're getting a food truck. We have heat lamps. We have fire pits. The first 150 people will get free desserts, so it's from Love Pop, but it's going to be basically a bunch of sweets and hot chocolates and a spiced chai and s'mores and all sorts of sweets, completely free for the first 150 people. What we are asking is we are looking to partner with the Hornbuckle Foundation for their coat drive. We're looking to fill up the wagon that's just outside of these doors here with all sorts of warm apparel for adults. So coats, sweaters, hats, gloves, anything that's gently used. It does not have to be new. Socks, they always need socks, but think of anything to help the Hornbuckle Foundation get warm attire for those who are in need this holiday season.
Yeah.
The next day after that is our Christmas Eve service. Yes, we are well aware that it is not Christmas Eve on the 21st, but that's how we do it here at Free. So that next Saturday night, On the 21st is our holiday evening. This is where we have amazing performances that night, including your amazing husband.
That's true. He'll be singing. It'll be great.
Yeah, and we have, we'll do a candlelit service. It's a very special evening. Again, I would come early, get your seats. That one tends to fill up. There will also be overflow out in the cafe. But I think that is all I got for you now.
Yeah, if you've ever been to a Christmas Eve or Christmas Eve service here at Free, it's a beautiful candlelight service that we do, that Rev Ryan does. Bring your friends and your family, people that maybe they've never been to Free. It's a great night for the first time. So please join us that evening, December 21st. Service times are the same, 5 and 7. So speaking of Christmas time, we're kicking off Advent tonight. And Advent is the 4 weeks leading up to Christmas. And it's this period of time of anticipation and preparation while we prepare our hearts and our minds for the light to be born in the darkness. And so we've got our Advent candles up. And there's 4 Advent candles, and they represent hope and peace and joy and love. And then the white candle in the center, that's the Christ candle. And we'll light that candle on December 21st on our Christmas Eve service. So tonight we're going to light the candle of hope. So I'm going to bring Christy and Justin up here. And Christy is going to say the prayer of hope for us while Justin lights the candle.
Hi, family. All right. This evening, we light the first candle, the candle of hope. This candle reminds us that God's work in the world is about light shining in the darkness, the hope of a new day, the hope of healing, the hope of recovery, the hope of being connected to others, connected to something greater than ourselves, the hope of God being born into the world, born into the darkness, born in the form of a vulnerable baby. Tonight, we begin our journey to Christmas.
Thanks, Christy. For those of you who don't know, Christy and Justin, they're my cousins. And Christy took me to my very first AA meeting when I was 15 years old. So the writing was on the wall there. But it's just great to do recovery with you and walk this journey with you. So thank you, Christy and Justin. So every week we start out our service with celebrations. We want to lift up the good stuff with you. So whether that's a new baby being born or a sobriety birthday from 5 days to 5,000 days, we want to celebrate with you. So we'll take 3 minutes. I've got Colin on my right here. We've got Bobby with the other mic, and raise your hand and we'll do some celebrations.
Hi, I'm Sheila, recovering addict. I have 45 days clean and sober.
Absolutely, Sheila. Congratulations, Sheila. Love that. Sarah's got one.
Hey, I'm Sarah. So I had Thanksgiving dinner with my family tonight, which means I got to see my kiddo for the first time in months.
Oh, beautiful.
It was so awesome. And my mom and my dad were both there, the first event they've attended together in 16 years.
Wow, we'll celebrate
It
that
was
for
amazing.
sure. Wow. I love that. Who else has something that we can celebrate tonight?
I just want to celebrate the fact that I got Mia here with me as my girlfriend. She's recently gotten sober, and I've been praying for her to come here with me, and so I'm just like so excited for her to be here with me.
We're excited too. We're glad you're here. That's awesome. It took our guest storyteller tonight 5 years to get his butt into Free, so, miracles happen. More on that later. Any other celebrations?
I'm Colin. I'll celebrate my second week of PHP trauma treatment at the Meadows. It is phenomenal, and I'm so happy for that recovery.
Well, we'll celebrate that for sure. Awesome, Colin.
I'm Kai, and I'm celebrating 624 days free of fentanyl.
Yeah, you are, Kai.
I'm Cy. In recovery, in the rooms, we celebrate the newcomers because it reminds us of where we come from. I got to hold a baby today that was a month and 3 days old. One of my clients has a newborn, and little Luna is the most adorable little thing. So I got reminded where I come from as
That's
holding
beautiful.
this little
I
baby
love
today.
that.
It was
I love
awesome.
that. The new life of recovery, right? Thank you for reminding us of that side. Any other celebrations? We've got 30 seconds left.
So my name is Richard. I'm an addict alcoholic, and Elizabeth is the one that brought me here. And I see a bunch of PLR people here that have graduated the program or left the program, and another group that's with her. So I just think that's worth being celebrated.
Yeah, we'll celebrate that for sure. Hey, David, do you want to pass Kai the mic? Kai, do you want to come up here and do celebrations with me? How many days off fentanyl did you say? 600? 624. Oh. We got to turn those mics on. You know, that's how they work. So go ahead and take the first one, Kai. Oh, there is no celebrations tonight online. All right. Well, let's just give it up for Kai and everyone for celebrating 1 day of sobriety. That's awesome. That's incredible. Kai, how many days sober were you the first time you ever came to Free? 17 days. And it just, man, there's a light in you now. It's pretty incredible. We are kicking off a 4-week series tonight on getting lit for the holidays. How can we be the light for others, for the world, and for ourselves? So here's a series video for y'all to check out. This is a basketball, and this was my sport growing up. And I played through college, and I had this coach, Coach Bob, who also happens to be my dad, and he would have me shoot thousands of one-handed shots all the time. I think I've got this photo. It's from an old sweatshirt of his, Coach Bob. He's on the far right there. We were the YMCA Magic in 1995. I don't know if y'all heard of us or not. I'm number 44 there, the little girl with the afro. You know, the early 90s were just a different time back then. So anyway, Coach Bob, you know, instead of mowing the lawn with my brothers or helping out with chores, I got out of those things by shooting one-handed shots. And he would have me stand in front of a basketball hoop, put my fingers out, cock my wrist, 90-degree angle, and throw the basketball up. Thousands of these shots, just time and time again. And it wasn't just, you know, around the house to get out of doing chores, but it would be at like the halftime or the timeouts of my brother's basketball games. And he'd be like, Noelle, come on, grab your basketball. And he would just have me stand and do these one-handed shots over and over and over again. See, there was a repetition to these shots. I was drilling down on the fundamentals and the mechanics. And I would point my fingers at the rim and hold my follow through, straight as an arrow, making sure that my elbow, that it didn't bow out, causing the basketball to go in a different direction. And he would have me do this at various locations along the court. So I knew when I got into a game, as soon as that basketball left my hands, I could tell you if it was going in or not. See, there is a rhythm and a harmony that comes from practice. And there is confidence that comes from that level of consistency. Repetition and muscle memory, they're a really incredible thing. And what I've learned in my recovery is resiliency. It works the same way. We're kicking off a brand new series tonight on being lit for the holidays and what it means to be light, to be the light for one another, to be the light for ourselves. And how do we keep the light within us? I think it starts with resiliency. See, I am certain that resiliency is one of those characteristics, and it separates the people who thrive under one set of circumstances and the people who succumb to another set of circumstances. One of the things that's really stuck with me over the past couple years at Free and just in the recovery community as a whole is that we're almost in this pressure cooker, this cultural experiment of how much our hearts can take, like how much pressure our spirits can take. Through stress and despair and these uncontrollable levels of depression and anxiety, I have seen people's mental health just crumble. But then on the opposite end of the spectrum, I have seen individuals with the same set of circumstances thrive. And why is that? These people, they seem to be more capable and maybe a bit more courageous. They optimize these moments and they have success around them. So why do we get these two extremes for the same set of circumstances? One of the tricky things about resiliency is even when we want the outcome of being a resilient person, it's really hard for us, especially in recovery, to understand the process of becoming resilient. And resiliency, it's an interesting word because it means to literally bounce back and return to your original form. So no matter how much your environment has bent you out of shape, and distorted you and tried to break you, that you're able, with this inexplicable capacity, to spring back to your original form. See, one of the misconceptions in our faith journey, one of the misconceptions in my faith journey, is that we think that if we believe in God and we follow God's will, that our life is going to be easy, that we won't have this challenging or harsher life. And as an alcoholic, that's all I wanted to do, was to avoid the pain. And as an active addict, my entire MO was to take matters into my own hands, to avoid harsh realities and the clamors of the world, mostly the ones inside myself, like that negative self-talk, those voices, that ego inside of me. The big book of Alcoholics Anonymous calls it an easier, softer way. And isn't that why we want to get sober? Or why we want our loved ones to get sober? We're trying to reduce the amount of turmoil in our own lives or in our loved ones' lives. And sometimes that's at the expense of elevating our own resiliency. See, recovery has taught me that the only thing worse than my problem is my solution to that problem. And the tragedy of it all is that the people who believe in God deal with the same problems as the people who don't believe in God. We have the same set of external turmoil and the same set of internal turmoil. But it's when we tackle those obstacles, and when we face adversity and conflict, that we get these hidden reserves of courage and resiliency that we didn't know that we had before. So when our backs are against the wall and our turmoil is through the roof and we're trying to be the light for one another, but man, we can hardly find the light in ourselves, how do we live into resiliency? Like, how do we live into being a resilient person? Tonight I want to dive into a very short but a very powerful scripture in the book of Proverbs. And the book of Proverbs is commonly referred to as wisdom literature. And it answers really weighty questions like, what does it look like to live well? What does it look like to live a resilient life? A proverb literally means a piece of advice. And I love this particular proverb. We're in Proverbs 24:16, and it says, though the righteous fall 7 times, they rise again, but the wicked stumble when calamity strikes. So whenever we have a declaration or a promise, we should always look at the assumptions. Though the righteous fall 7 times, they rise again. And immediately my mind goes to, well, they rise again. But before we do so, we got to look at the beginning of that scripture. The righteous, they fall 7 times. Why are the righteous falling 7 times? I mean, if you're moral and you're good, you're righteous, why are you falling at all? Isn't it proof that you're not righteous if you are falling? But yet scripture, it's telling us that the righteous, that they're going to fall. And not just once, but 7 times. And if you know anything about the Bible, you know that the Bible is very intentional with its use of words and numbers. The number 7 is in scripture 860 times. And not only does it represent completion, it took God 7 days to complete the earth, but it also represents infinite capacity. So when it says that the righteous, that they fall 7 times, it's not saying that the righteous fall 7 times. It's saying that the righteous, that they fall, and they fall, and they fall, and they fall. And they fall so many times that it's going to be a fundamental part of their life. So many times that they're not going to be able to count. So my alcoholic brain is thinking, well, man, if being righteous, I'm going to fall so many times, what's the point? What's the point of being morally good then? See, part of the dilemma is that we create this delusion for ourselves. And it says that if I follow God's will, that I'm going to have a life that I'm not falling, a carefree life. And yet, God is expecting us to fall. And then sometimes to relapse and to fail and to lose. And I don't know about you, but for some dark reason, that gives someone like me a lot of grace. Because for so long, man, I was so tied up in the failing and in this narrative that I told myself that I wasn't good enough. Why would I get up again? Over and over and over again. And then, when I would fall, man, it would just bring me back and my faith would get really shaky. And be like, am I wrong about God? Am I wrong about me? There's a repetition, not only to resiliency, but to the rising once we fall. See, I find myself wanting to have some big faith, but I don't want the problems that come with big faith. But then I realized, what's the point of having big faith if I don't have any problems? So if you're in the season of your life where you're praying for some big faith, just know that you're also praying for some big problems. And we run into trouble when our problems, they start to elevate, and then our faith, that it doesn't elevate with it. I had this teacher in college, and she, at the beginning of the semester, she gave us all the answers to the test. She said, here is every answer to the test this semester. And if you study it, you're going to get an A. Can you believe some of the people in this class that they still failed? Not me, but some of the people in the class, they still failed. See, even though we're given the answers, some of us, we still can't grasp it. We still don't get it. We don't have the internal structure that it takes to make the choice to rise again once we fall. See, the falling is God giving us the mechanics and the fundamentals to get back up and to rise again. See, God is not trying to just get us through. He is trying to give us those fundamentals and the foundation to drive us through. He is not trying to just get us that A, but make us that A. I got sober at a club in DTC, and I remember in my first 30 days of sobriety, I would sit in the very back of this meeting because I didn't want to get called on. I didn't want you all to look at me. I didn't want to know any of you guys. But there were 2 banners in the back of this room, and one of them was the 9-step promises. And it was laid out kind of like a list. And I remember sitting in this meeting, and I would just look at this list over and over again. And one of them really stuck out to me. And it reads, "We will not regret the past, nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity, and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see that a new experience can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear." And I knew for certain that would never be me. Because for so long, I wanted to shut the door on my past. I had gone so far down the scale that I was convinced I was lost cause. And I was drowning in shame and self-pity. See, by the time I was 27 years old, I had collected 3 DUIs, multiple stints in jail. I had been on paper with the state of Colorado for more than a decade. And Arapahoe County Sheriff, they would come to my work to make sure I was where I said I was. And I wasn't drinking while I was there. And these were all consequences that I received because I couldn't put the bottle down. And I did not want to control my drinking, even after 3 DUIs. I did not think I needed to get sober. I just wanted to control my consequences. I didn't want to quit drinking. I wanted to quit getting arrested. And I sat there a couple days sober, and all I wanted to do was slam the door on that past. I didn't want to see it. I just wanted to throw those keys away. Because I kept falling, and I kept falling, and I kept lying. I kept running from who I was, and I had no idea how to tell the truth. See, I just want you to know that sometimes resiliency, it looks like this. And that's okay. That's okay. You know, it's really not that important that we fall. But what's much more important is that we get back up. See, one of the most profound things that my sponsor ever told me was that in the game of life, there is nothing less important than the score at halftime. The tragedy is that we don't almost lose, but that we almost win. And part of the work that we do in recovery is changing that motion picture in our head. You know, and this self-work, the narrative, it starts to change. The more I showed up and the more I connected with others and I listened to their truth and I started to be more honest about mine, the more I began to no longer see my past with such shame around it. See, it turns out I wasn't all gone. I just wasn't all there. Like I just couldn't see the truth that alcohol was playing in my life. And I'll never forget those first couple weeks of sobriety, just sitting there and wondering how I was going to lean into this work. Like all this stuff that I was being told to do. How was I going to remember to pray every morning and to meditate? End my day with a reflection and an inventory. How was I going to remember to call another woman when my thinking started to get a little shaky? How was I going to remember? How was I going to stay sober? How was I going to remember all this that I had to do? And then this man, Kevin, in a meeting, I'll never forget. He said, part of the word spiritual is the word ritual. These seemingly unrelated things that we do on a daily basis that compound, these fundamentals and these mechanics that build off of each other. And so then we're put in a situation where, man, life is getting really hard and recovery is getting really tough, but you have those fundamentals and those rituals that you go back to. And it's a lot like muscle memory. And a light went off in my head. I knew all about muscle memory. I knew all about those one-handed shots that got me so confident in shooting a basketball. Those seemingly unrelated little movements that we do. And if muscle memory or sports aren't your thing, this is the same thing that we're taught in the rooms of recovery. That we need to practice these principles in all of our affairs. That it is progress and not perfection that keeps us on the spiritual path. And most importantly, keeps us aligned with God's will. That's the repetition to resiliency. So what develops resiliency? Like, how do we keep the light on for ourselves and for others? Like, what gets us up one more time? And one more time after that? You know, early in my recovery, I was told to take it one day at a time. And I did. Some days it was 1 second, 1 minute at a time, but I did. And then slowly, instead of just trying to survive each day, I started to maximize. each day. And then there was another shift. I began to stop wanting to shut out my past. And I was like, man, maybe I could use my story to just help one person. And then that shame and self-pity, it started to drift away, and it was replaced with humility and courage. And it was the repetition of all of these little things. See, the difference between someone who is resilient and someone who lacks resiliency, it's not a big difference. It's the difference of one. It's not a difference of 1,000 or 100 or 10. It's just the difference of one. See, it doesn't matter how many times we fall, but it just matters that we get up one more time than we fell. That's where we have the foundation of those fundamentals and the mechanics that we can lean into and get up one more time. And that is the repetition of resiliency. And that is how we keep the light on for ourselves and others, and especially during the holiday time. You know, there's a lot of new faces in here tonight, and there's a lot of people struggling. And I just want you to know that if you're here tonight, that you have a home here, and we will leave the light on for you. That's what we're talking about in our series, Getting Lit for the Holidays. How do we do that for one another? And I just want to kick this series off this week by letting you know that we here at Free, your new home, your new family, we are keeping the light on for you. So here's Keep the Light On by Tom Walker. tonight's your first night here with us, we always have a storyteller. So we bring up someone, whatever topic we are that week, whether it's getting lit for the holidays, resiliency, just to talk about that topic for the week. And our storyteller tonight, I met him, must have been about 6 years ago, and it was at a cycle bar class. I'm a big fan of group fitness. And I would always get so pissed off every time this person was in the same class that I was in, because I knew I was going to get in second. Like, he just beat me every time. And that was really aggravating for me. And then we started to follow each other on social media, and it turns out our sobriety birthdays were about 3 days apart. And so I would see him year after year, and we'd hit these classes at various times, and we'd just run into each other and always celebrate our sobriety with one another. And then he started to ask me about this free place. And I was like, man, you really need to come, David. And like any good alcoholic, he's stubborn. And it took him 5 years to get here. But let me tell you what, since the day he walked into these doors, he's been here almost every single Saturday since then. And that was about a year ago. So I don't know what that tells you, but he's stuck around. So I'm so pleased to have David here with us. I know he's been impactful in my sobriety. Carrie's going to interview him, but will you all give it up for David for me?
Now it's. Can you guys hear me? All right. Hello, David.
Hello.
Thanks for being here. It's usually the person who's interviewing who does the introduction, but I knew that Noelle had such an important part of your story in coming to Free that it had to be her who introduced you. And that when she found out that you were the guest storyteller for the night that she was preaching. So thank you so much for joining with us today. I'd like to start at the beginning and kind of tell some of your backstory. You grew up in a very loving household, church-going household. Can you tell us a little bit about just even the basics of what it looked like in your house?
Yeah, I grew up in a very Christian family, very loving, but I always kind of just felt like a black sheep, I guess you could say. And then I was forced to go to church every week up until like my teenage years, and then I didn't go nearly as much. So.
And then you started to, as you said you turned your back on
Yes.
God. And
Yes,
can you tell us what that looked like?
Yeah, as I got to my late teens, I was introduced to more alcohol, drugs, and I just felt like turning my back on God was the way it was going to be for me. And my whole 20s were a disaster.
Well, and it started, what I loved when I didn't know you very well, at least your story very well, when we sat down, and we had a lot in common because you had a lot of yets that you had not, but you thought you were okay because you hadn't reached those yets yet. Can you tell us what that looked like?
Yeah, so, the alcohol, smoking weed, all that, I didn't have any DUIs, so I was like, oh, I'm good to go. I go to work every day, and, then I went into treatment for smoking heroin in 2006, but I wasn't shooting it up, so I was like, I'm good to go, and all that type of stuff. And then in 2008, I was like, went into treatment again for Oxycontin, but I didn't want to accept the fact that I truly was an alcoholic, drug addict, everything, all the above. Anything mind altering, I wanted more. So.
And that kept you out of recovery for a long time because you had gone to treatment, but then you were telling yourself like, well, I can just drink. I'm not doing the pills. I'm not doing the heroin. Like, so I'm okay with just drinking, which I know is a familiar story in our community. And really all of substance use, right? But it was interesting. So you ended up having several, like you had some relationships. You had one long-term relationship with who then became the mother of your child, and she was the one who kind of laid down the ultimatum in order for you to seek the treatment that you needed. Can you tell us what that final pretty much what that final night looked like.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, my son was born in 2009, and I thought, well, maybe I can just stop drinking when he's born. And as an alcoholic, that did not happen. And so when he was a year and 5 months old, it got really, really bad. And, you know, his mother locked her and him into the bedroom, and she was scared because I was in a drunken rage. And she gave me the ultimatum and said, you know, you can go into treatment and be in your son's life or get out of here. And that was my final bottom, and that was my sobriety date, June 26, 2010.
But she enlisted help, though. She wasn't going to do it alone. And what did she make you do that night?
Oh, I forgot that part of the story. So she's like, you need to call your parents. You need to tell them what's going on. My folks knew I drank, but not to the extent that I drank. And so I called my dad in a blackout and told him what was going on. And I went into treatment that next morning. And yeah, that was my bottom. And I'm grateful to my son's mom, even though her and I didn't work out. I'm grateful that she stood up to me and had the courage to do so.
Yeah, and you don't hear that all the time. So it's amazing that you were still able, and still to this day, have a beautiful relationship with her. You guys co-parent beautifully together. His son was at the last service, which was amazing. He was sitting in the front row, and so you were able to rebuild this life, and you were able to be there for your son. And then early on, so you went through 12-step recovery, and that's pretty much what it was that got you on the right path. Can you talk a little bit about the relationship that you had, primarily with the second sponsor, just coming into Denver, and like what that looked like? Because he too was at that last service.
Yeah.
So can you tell us why him, and what did he do that you were like, that's the guy for me?
So yeah, my third sponsor, but I was 2 years sober when I moved to Denver, and the sponsor, he's currently who I have now, and I just wanted what he had. He's the most selfless guy ever. He's still, even with 44 years of sobriety, he still goes to 4 or 5 meetings a week. He sponsors guys. He's the most humble, selfless guy I've ever met, and so I'm grateful to him because that's what I want, and so he's been such an instrumental sponsor in my recovery.
And when you moved here, you didn't know anyone. You moved here with your partner, but you didn't know anyone.
Yeah.
So you built a life in recovery, and as well as, I know we also spoke that you don't just keep it in the rooms of 12-step recovery. You take it and you do live your recovery out loud. There was a woman who recently, you were saying you met her through a networking group, and that she was sharing her personal journey, and you were even able to help her. So how does that look like outside of the rooms of 12-step recovery?
Yeah, I'm very open about my recovery because you never know who may need help. I'm very just open about it. And to this day, even with 14 years of sobriety, I still hit 4 meetings a week. I go to beginners meetings. I have 2 sponsees. I hit my knees every morning, the third step prayer. I do the daily reflections because the folks that quit doing this deal, or at least the ones I've experienced, it doesn't turn out very well, and I don't want to find out what happens.
And what I love that we did not know when we sat down what Noelle was going to speak about, and there was so many tie-ins to your story, and your favorite passage, which you actually said was the exact quote that Noelle used. And again, we had no idea that you were going to do that. She was going to do that. So what does that quote mean to you, that we don't regret the past or wish to shut the door on it? And how do you use that today as your superpower?
Yeah, that's like my favorite sentence out of the big book. We don't regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. Because when I came into the rooms, I was very shameful. The first year and 5 months of my son's life, I was non-existent. I passed out on the couch every night. His mother took care of him. I had a lot of guilt and shame around that. And so that passage has been so helpful for me because I was so shameful, and that's why I love this free community. You know, there's no shame. So, but yeah, that's been so huge for me, and the 9-step promises have came true to me. And so when Noelle had that for her sermon, I was like, wow, that's like my jam right there. So,
And I love that so much. And you know, you embody, like, you show up and you are always kind, you're always cheerful, you always are willing to talk to people and get involved. I know that hasn't always been easy. Specifically, it did take you quite some time to actually walk in through the door, as it did me. And so I mean, it took me a long time, and now that I'm working here, it still blows my mind. But that person who is out there, who's still struggling, who doesn't think that either this place or community is for them, somebody who's out there who thinks that they're the one who's still going to get excluded. If you only knew who I was, I'm not going to belong. Yeah. What would you say to that person who's still out there today?
Just have the courage to ask for help. If you know someone in recovery, ask them to go to a meeting with you. I mean, that's what was huge for me, just having that nudge and just being asked for help. I mean, that's the biggest thing.
And I know even sometimes that is really hard to do. Sometimes those are the toughest words that have come out of someone's mouth is like, I can't do this anymore. And I know we have a lot of people who watch us online, so thank you all for joining us online. And watch the replay of this. Every week we have, tons of people who still have not come in through these doors, who watch this, nestled up in their bed at night, can't sleep, maybe still watching it in that lonely desperation of just like, where do I even begin? And, sometimes that what Noelle was talking about, I just need to get up one more time. What do you say to that person, that one more time bit of like hope out there? Like, what do you say to that person who may not know who to ask, who may not know, who's like sitting there in the darkness, and like, how do you hold on just that one more day?
That's
solve all of our problems. Go ahead.
I just keep coming back to asking for help, but I mean, there is a much better life out there, and I thought my life was over, and it was just beginning at the age of 29, and so there is hope. And I hate to say this, but like, if I can get sober, I feel like anybody can get sober. I mean, there were so many times I just wanted my life to end, so.
And just to circle back, one of the things that you had said earlier was, growing up in a religious household, you did have a higher power of your own understanding who you believe you shut the door on. Mm-hmm. When you entered into the rooms of recovery, you found that same loving God was there waiting for you, which that's not everyone's experience. And one of your biggest struggles was self-forgiveness and that self-shame and letting yourself off the hook. And to someone out there who's still maybe struggling with that, like, what would you say to that person who maybe understands that there is a loving God, but how do I start with the self-forgiveness?
I mean, I just would pray to my higher power and ask for that forgiveness, to put the bat down and stop beating myself up about it, because there is hope. And I know I did turn my back on the God that I grew up with, but as I came into recovery, I was able to face that higher power again and not turn my back on him anymore. And I truly believe I would not be sober without my higher power.
Thank you so much. And I know you're going to stick around. So if anyone has any questions or wants to get to know a solid man in recovery, 14 years, he still does everything that he said. The newcomer meeting still helps people out there. He definitely embodies that getting lit for the holidays and being the light for somebody else. And I know you're always open to talking to the newcomer and helping. So would you guys please give a round of applause and thank David. All right, and the way we close things down on a Saturday night is very similar to how we started. In the beginning, we do celebrations, and at the end, this is where we do heartaches. So if there's something that's heavy on your heart tonight, you don't feel like you can carry this alone, you do not have to. We are here for you. This is community. If you're watching us online, you can drop your heartaches in the comments. YouTube, Facebook, drop us a line. We are all here for you. The next 3 minutes is for anyone here in the room. So please know that there's nothing too big or too small, that we are here for you. So I think we have Colin, and then Deborah, did you want to... Oh, Bobby's going to do it. Sorry, Bobby. All right. So, sorry. So these next 3 minutes are for you guys. So just raise your hand if you have a heartache.
Hi, my name is Marjorie, and I'm in sober living, and in the past 10 days, we've had 4 relapses. So I just want to pray for the addict who is still suffering. Let them see the light.
Yes, thank you. It's a tough time of year for a lot of people.
So I'm Dustin. This is the first time here. I found out 2 days ago that my cousin-in-law had a stroke. So if everybody could keep him in your thoughts, that'd be awesome. Thank you.
Glad you're here. Welcome.
My name's Cy. So Thanksgiving is a time where I get to see a lot of people in my life that I don't get to see a lot during the year. And there's a very good old friend of my family's who I've known for a very long time. And I didn't hear from him a lot this year. I usually have a lot more contact with him. And I was busy. And at Thanksgiving, we were doing reflections, and he shared with us that in this last year, his father developed a terminal illness and died within 6 months. And both his younger brother and younger sister, who have struggled with addiction, Jeff has never struggled with addiction, but he has it all over in his family. And both of his younger siblings passed away from addiction this last year, fentanyl overdoses, both of them. And I just want to say, if there's somebody in your life that means anything to you and you haven't heard from them in a while, check on them and see how they're doing, because my friend was really broken.
Thank you for that reminder.
My name's Kelly. Last Thursday, my friend blew his head off, and his daughter and her son found him. And I have another friend that committed suicide. He hung himself. And then the government froze my account, so I'm like, what the? But so yeah, I'm dealing with that. Say a prayer for their families and stuff like that. Thank you.
My name is Cody. My brother just had a stroke in prison, and just keep him in his prayers. His name's Larry.
Hi, my name is Josie. I'm an addict, and I have been having a lot of shame lately due to my past and criminal record, because it is interfering with finding new employment, and this is the first time dealing with this since my arrest. So if y'all could just pray for me and take that shame out.
Glad you're here. Thank you all for that. And if you also needed employment help, we do have a resource fair here. I don't know if you said you currently had a job or you were struggling with it, but come talk to me after. We have a community member here. It's quite common in this community, so please come talk to me after. I can't really see you because these lights, so come talk to me. Thank you all for being here tonight. Online, sorry. Thank you, Bobby. Oh, Kai, come on up, Kai. Oh, come on. Come on, friends. I was going to say, just make one up, Kai. Well, it's so good to see you in person, Kai. Normally, almost every week we get to see you online. So thank you. I love seeing you in person. It's wonderful to see you, and every single time you're here celebrating with us. So thank you so much. Sorry, that threw me off. Anyhow, okay, so what I was going to say now is thank you all again for being here. And if you've been touched by what we do here at Free, in order to keep that light on for the next person, we are fully funded by your donations. So any little bit helps. Right now, there's 3 ways to give back. But if you call this place your home, your community, and you want to keep it open for the next time or for the next person, I know a lot of us are used to those dark, dingy basements where they have 12-step recovery meetings. Here is not that. This is a beautiful location. that houses so many different resources. So please, 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 there's 3 ways to give. One, we have our app. You can download that. You can get that also from our website. We also have the giving kiosks, one that is located right here, one that is in the back for cash check types. And then there's also our website that you can go to, hit giving, click down, hit give. There's 2 boxes now, one that says general fund and one that says bathrooms, which I'll give you an update in just a moment. And then there's also the dip jar. So right outside here on the little table, you'll see that little computerized box. It's a $25 or $20. It's set at $20. You stick your credit card in, you pull it out. All of the proceeds for the next couple weeks goes towards the bathroom fund, and all of it just automatically goes there. You don't need to do anything special. And to give you guys a little update on the bathroom, so we bought this building about 2 years ago, and it was fully volunteer funded and volunteer. They came in here and they gutted this place. They painted it, ripped out the carpet, rips out the pews, did the whole entire cafe, all volunteer work and funded. The only thing that we were not able to do were our bathrooms. I know some of you may not care about this in the slightest bit, and that's okay. But for those of you who do, we just started this last week. The Ann Schutz Foundation gave us a very generous grant, but it's for $10,000, but it's a matching grant. So we can only have the amount in which we're able to fundraise for. We had an additional community member do the same exact thing for $5,000. So for $15,000, we have to raise that funds to go towards the bathroom. In 1 week, we had about $10,500 so far. So we do still have a little bit of ways to go. So if there's anything that you can donate tonight, again, all of the proceeds from the dip jar go to that. It could be $5, it could be $10, it could be hundreds of dollars. That would be awesome. And so many of you have already donated. So if anyone has already donated, please know that we're super, super grateful. And please help us. Help us make this a loving, warm space where we can be proud of, invite people in, and know that we don't have to be confined to those dark, dingy basements any longer, that we also can have beautiful things in recovery. So please, thank you so much, and I would love to end with a 3rd step prayer. So David, if you don't mind, I did make you do this last time with me, but because it means so much to you, it does mean so much to me as well. If you guys are not familiar with the 3rd step prayer, it's going to be up on your screen, but I am going to ask David to be the one to actually pray us out tonight. So if you guys would please just open your hands. It's just a sign of openness. It's just a little bit of willingness. And David, I'm going to pass it to you.
God, I offer myself to thee to build with me and to do with me as thy will. Relieve me of the bondages of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those that I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always.
Thanks, friends. See you next week.